Hello guys and gals, and this is part 7 of our reading of Strange Monsters and Great Searches by George Laycock. And as always, we'll start off with the copyright information. This is copyright 1973 by George Laycock. All rights reserved. Published in large print by arrangement with Doubleday and Company, and is set in Photon 18-point Helvetica medium. We will be reading Jet-propelled Monster, and in the last one we read about a giant octopus, or they think it's an octopus, that washed up on the Florida coast, St. Augustine Beach. But let's go on with the thing. Okay, Jet-propelled Monster. One has only to close his eyes to imagine the gentle swelling of the midnight sea. So thick is the darkness that the line between sky and water is gone. The wind has gentled and died. The seas lie glassy. For the castaway adrift on a small boat, what form would the most frightening monster imaginable take in such an hour? Look over the side and into the depths. There below, shapeless and changing in form, it moves slowly. Around its body, there's a cold glow. A phosphorescent monster slowly takes shape as it rises towards the surface beneath the boat. What form of life can this be? Such a creature must not be real at all, but simply born of imagination. Its eyes are giant lenses 10 inches across. It has a body and head which seem to form all in one strange pulpy lump. At the back of the long body is a tail shaped like the tip of a spear, but the head is the most frightening part of all. In front of those eyes, the face separates into 10 long boneless arms, each curling and twisting in different directions as if feeling the sea for prey. 2 of the arms are much longer than the others. They reach far ahead into the water, exploring, touching, and searching. Along the underside of each fleshy arm are rows of suction cups, some as big as saucers and capable of clamping onto some helpless prey and holding it tightly long enough to bring it to the mouth. There the prey, lost in the jungle of entangling arms, is crunched between horny plates and swallowed. What if this monstrous apparition were to slip one of those giant tentacles up and over the little boat drifting on the ocean's dark surface? This, we are assured, could happen. Such creatures, as we have described, do live in the ocean depths. Some readers will recall from the laboratory sessions of biology courses, and the creatures here described is very like a squid. Most squid are small, but many small animals have, when viewed under a magnifying lens, become a monster. The squid lying inert in the biology laboratory, awaiting the student's scalpel, is harmless enough in spite of its strange shape. From tip to tip, it may measure 8 inches and be about 2 inches across the body. The flimsy tentacles of this little sea creature seem harmless. Such average-sized squid are connected by the millions of nets along the Atlantic coast. Such average-sized squid are collected by the millions of nets along the Atlantic coast. They are sometimes sold as bait to fishermen. The saltwater animals without a skeleton, a member of the cephalopoda, the cephalopods, are creatures that have no external shells and usually have the mouth surrounded with a circle of arms. One cousin of the squid is the octopus, but the squid is a speedy character compared with cousin octopus, while the octopus crawls about the rocks seeking prey. The squid cruises the open waters, chasing down whatever he chooses to eat. He can quickly overtake various species of fish. The squid has 2 speeds, fast and slow, depending on whether he moves forward or backwards. He travels forward at slow speeds by the movement of fins, but when the squid goes in reverse, he employs the principle of jet propulsion. Water taken in is forced out with such speed that his torpedo-shaped body rockets backwards through the sea. If the squid is pursued, it escapes by this high-speed procedure. Meanwhile, it sends out not plain transparent seawater, but a cloudy mass of black ink, a murky curtain that hides its escape route. As we have said, there is nothing truly frightening about the average little squid, especially when it lies dead upon the laboratory table. But over the ages, there have been reports of squid so large that they have taken people for food, and these reports cannot be ignored in any discussion of monsters. Centuries ago, sailors returning from their voyages spoke of such monsters of the sea. Often they were ignored or ridiculed. Men still ridicule monster stories. We tend to believe so strongly in our own full knowledge that there is little room for admitting new creatures, especially if they are unusual in size, shape, or form. Learned men have sometimes insisted that unless they already knew of such a creature, it simply could not exist. This, as Dr. Bernard Wevelmans explains so ably in his authoritative book, In the Wake of the Sea Serpents, was for long years the fate of the giant squid. During the 1700s, Eric Pontoppidan spoke of great sea creatures in his book, The Natural History of Norway. He spoke of objects protruding from the surface of the sea and said, "It seems these are the creature's arms, and it is said if they were to lay a hold of the largest man-o'-war, they would pull it down to the bottom. After this monster has been on the surface of the water a short time, it begins slowly to sink again, and then the danger is as great as before, because the motion of the sinking causes such a swell in the sea and such an eddy or whirlpool that it draws down everything with it." Over the years, men of the sea carried back other tales of strange giant beasts cruising the depths. Men of science continue to grin and shake their heads in disbelief. Gradually, however, bits of evidence more concrete were being offered. In the autumn of 1861, a French naval craft in the North Atlantic encountered an island of flesh floating on the surface. The ship's captain, having little else to do at the time and being curious as well, decided that he would capture the slowly moving creature. Guns were ready, firing began, but nothing would penetrate this slippery leather covering. Projectiles sank in, bounced back, and slid off into the sea. This can be frustrating to the captain of a gunboat. There was still one more weapon, the harpoon. As the ship closed on the creature, swimming slowly because of a probable sickness, the harpooner aimed and released the weapon. The point was deeply embedded in the sack-like body. Finally, when the animal had been dragged closer to the ship, the flesh was pierced again, and a line run through the back end of the body. Next, the crew began winching the massive weight upward towards deck. The line, however, cut through the flesh like a thread drawn through jello, and it appeared that the beast would slip back into the depths. To prevent this, a loop was thrown around the tail fin, and although the tail fin broke from the body under the force of the winch, the crew did manage to bring about 40 pounds of the tail aboard. This evidence was taken eventually to the French Academy of Sciences. What had the men aboard the gunboat seen? They knew all right what they had found. Whether anyone cared to believe or not, it was a giant squid. From the end of its tentacles to the tip of the other end, it measured perhaps 24 feet in length. With a body alone that was perhaps 18 feet long, it floated there in plain view before the crew. This was still not as large as the giant squid. This was still not as large as the giant squid is likely to grow. In 1847, one of the papers that had been read at a meeting of the Society of Scandinavian Naturalists concerned the giant squid. 6 years later, with the subject still very much on his mind, the author of that paper heard of a giant squid washed up on the beach. A squid once it runs aground is helpless no matter how much it exercises its jet power. Without the sea to support its bulk, it struggles until it perishes. A portion of the grounded giant reached the laboratory of the scientist, who further described it and gave it the scientific name Architeuthis monachus. Architeuthis monachus, I think. Stories of monsters, like stories of any kind, have the tendency to change when passed from person to person. Few storytellers have ever been known to shrink a monster. Perhaps stories of the giant squid pulling themselves from the sea on dark nights and crawling onto the rigging of ships, toppling and sinking them, are fiction. But there can be no question that the biggest of the squid reach weights that total many tons. One of the largest of recorded giant squid washed up on the beach in 1924. Much of the mutilated specimen was gone, but the fact that it had possessed 10 arms confirmed its identity. The body, which was 9 feet thick, would have been higher, even lying on its side, than the ceiling of an average room. Scientists believe this specimen to have been more than 100 feet long, not measuring the 2 long tentacles from tip to tip. Measuring the 2 long tentacles, it might have stretched through the sea for more than 200 feet, 2/3 the length of a football field. There is a more recent story of a giant squid that took an entire ship into its grasp. One night, the squid climbed upon the side of the ship. The captain found the end of its tentacles along the deck. One tentacle grasped the ship's stern. Then the captain walked to the other end of his ship, and there was another tentacle. The ship was 175 feet long. Dr. Ann Bitter, formerly of the Cambridge University Zoology Department, has said that such a creature would have a body at least 25 feet long. Dr. Bitter also added that she believed the story, and told other scientists that the ship's officer had an excellent reputation as a careful observer and accurate reporter of what he saw at sea. The squid would have a reach of more than 200 feet. There are apparently authentic reports of giant squid capturing men. The fate of the unfortunate man can be assumed. The squid have no reason for capturing anything except to eat it. Divers may sometimes think of these stories as they explore the depths, and so must all who are adrift in small craft at sea. Sailors have reported saving themselves by quickly chopping off the groping tentacles that reach out of the sea and into the fishing boats. This has been next we're going to read about feathered monsters, and that will be chapter 8. Let me put this back in. Okay. We have been reading Strange Monsters and Great Searches by George Laycock. If you like this content, make sure you like and subscribe and ring the bell so you know when I upload. And if you will support me in any way, all that information will be in the description below. As always, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.